Ryan says, "Hey guys, recently Disney announced they were adding 4 new ships to their cruise line as part of a $60 billion expansion of their parks and experiences. They currently have 4 ships, with 4 more ships already in the pipeline. With the 4 additional new ships announced last week, they are nearly tripling their fleet to 13. I believe that's more than tripling, in fact. My first reaction," Ryan says, "was surprise, thinking that cruising was probably the slowest to rebound from the pandemic. But as I thought about it in the context of Disney's Taylor Swift era, it seemed to make a lot of sense. As Ben noted a year ago, selling experiences in the parks is fundamentally limited by both park size and geography. And while Disney continues to try to cram more and more people into their parks, even the massive Florida property is physically constrained, not only by how many parks and hotels they can fit on the land, but also by the infrastructure on and around the parks. Cruising sidesteps a lot of these challenges. With cruise ships, Disney can keep scaling up to meet demand. Additionally, Disney can put those ships anywhere there's a port, making Disney experiences more geographically accessible to more people. So, what do you think? Is Disney's huge increase in cruise capacity a confirmation of Disney's Taylor Swift era? I would say yes, and this is a great catch by Ryan 12 months later. But what do you think, Ben? And also, can you give people, anyone who's not living and dying with every Stratechery post and every Sharp Tech podcast, can you provide a quick refresher on what Disney's Taylor Swift era entails?
Yeah, I'd actually have to dive deeper into this. I don't think this is completely new. I think it's like they did announce it sort of in a publicly facing way. But when I wrote Disney's Taylor Swift era, that was in the context of an announced $60 billion expansion that they said is going to include new cruise ships and parks. So I think that this thematically, or the fact that new ships were coming, was actually part of what drove this article originally. And I think what has happened now is the explicit announcement of XYZ when they're coming. And so it's sort of like movies, it's a rollout, right? Like Disney, they're making movies, and then they say, oh, there's X amount of movies, and then they give you the name of the movie. I believe there's a bit of that here, because the 13 number does ring familiar to me. Forgive the winging it on the podcast. I didn't specify for sure, but I think that's the case. But yes, no, this fits perfectly in. I mean, but what's the limitation here? You have to actually build the freaking cruise ship, right? That costs a lot of money. To Ryan's point, building parks costs land, costs money. One of the, I think, real errors for Bob Chapek was it doesn't matter your politics in terms of their sort of fight with Florida. It was bad business, because it's a tremendous asset. They have this huge amount of land and area in Orlando that they can expand much more trivially than they can in California or else in the world. And that's just really important to their business. And in a world of abundance, right? Like they had the best of both worlds, as we've talked about, when it came to TV. They got the zero marginal cost nature of pushing out content, and they got to keep all these profits, and they got to do the bundle within a bundle, all the bits we talked about last week. And as that goes away, what is valuable in a world of abundance? Things that are scarce. What things are scarce? Things that have a physical constraint. And there is a constraint to how many people can go to Disney World. There's a constraint to how many people can go on a cruise trip. And this is limiting, because not everyone can access it, number one. Number two, by definition, you can't sort of expand endlessly. And number three, it costs a lot of money. It's not like you have to pay employees on an ongoing basis. You have to do upkeep. You have to actually build the rides. You have to build the ships. There's lots of things that go into it. And the point of that article is to say, look, Disney remains a solid business. It's just not what it was, right? And the Taylor Swift era was in the context of the summer of Taylor Swift. I had just gone to a concert that in LA that sort of like helped sort of inspire the framing of that piece. But the idea is, what makes a concert, what made that thing such a big deal, was you had cultural resonance. Everyone was talking about it, but it paid off in scarcity, and you actually had to get a ticket and go to the concert. And so I think that
scarcity, because there's a limiting factor that Taylor Swift experiences, which is her physical ability to play sold out arena shows. And she played, I think, like 6 shows in Los Angeles.
No, I think
So
it was more than that. I think it was something crazy. But yeah,
the Eras tour is still going. But yeah, last summer she took over the entire United States. Now she's in Europe, or has been in Europe. But that would be the other parallel to Disney, is that as experiences become the point of emphasis, there are, logistical challenges and limiting factors that don't exist in the TV business.
That's right. And all that was just saying, look, it's okay. Like, this is just a reset of Disney, and it's a reset, to be clear, to put our business analysis hats on, at a lower valuation. It's just, if you have to invest that much money and you're capped on the upside, you're just not worth as much as an infinitely scalable media business. But the infinitely scalable media business depended on the cable to sort of have its real sort of payoff, and that's gone, and that's okay. Now, it's not okay. It was okay then because Disney's stock was really low. And the whole point was, look, that's fine. The stock's low. They actually do have upside, because at the time their stock, I think, was so low that the parks were basically, you were getting them for free to some extent. Right. Or maybe, no, you were getting the streaming service for free if you actually calculated the value. And that's the case. So this news, or the specifics about the ships, that's just sort of the continuation of the path they're sort of inevitably on. And
other infinitely scalable media businesses don't have a secondary parks business that they can sort of pivot to and emphasize going forward. And so in that respect, Disney's better situated than some of its peers over the last several years.
Right. I mean,
growing.
Yeah, I mean, Comcast has like the Universal parks that I think are doing these well. Like, the Universal parks are interesting because they're like, Disney's like the fully integrated offering in the market. Like, they have all their own IP that goes into their own streaming services and their own movies and then their own parks. Universal is like, okay, we're for everyone else. We're the modular player. So you go there and they have like they have like Nintendo Land, like, or they have stuff from Paramount, or they have, and so they're like the grab bag for everyone else, which is fine. It makes sense. It's funny how these market structures show up sort of repeatedly in lots of places that you sort of wouldn't expect. Theme parks actually turns out to be one of them. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a bit about Disney. It's funny because Disney's stock is basically like flat over the last like 20 years or something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but it really is a company that charts sort of the rise and fall of a certain type of business model and a certain reality. And I think their job going forward is to get out of the thing about experiences. You do want them to be special. And Disney, particularly, and I think in the streaming area, really started generating a bunch of muck because they were just focused on volume instead of sort of really quality, getting that engine sort of running and purring again. And to what extent streaming pays off into something larger and greater, TBD. But for now, it's fine to think about them and value them based on, they do still have this unique capability to deliver experiences, and they're right to invest in it.